Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I have this wonderful team that God has provided me so that we can do these services. So I'm really blessed, and I always like to introduce them. Let me start out with my faithful assistant, Faith, who basically has been my assistant since the day she was born. I think she was like 3 weeks old when her dad first brought her to church, and he would work the soundboard with one hand and hold her with the other. And then as she got older, she started crawling, and she crawled right up on stage. So I left her there. I mean, she acted like she owned the place. So, okay. And I had a portable mic at that time, so I would just step over her. But when she got a little bit older, we would put her on the podium when we did announcements. And so I think people paid more attention to the announcements then. And then and then as she got older, she and her sister would become ushers and hand out affirmation cards at the end of the service. But her dad was a tow truck driver, and she lived 6 blocks from my house, and he would go on these out-of-town tows, and he would drop the girls at my house. And of course, I just had to put him to work because, I always have projects going. And so I got to see her work. And so when at 14 and a half, she said, I want a real job instead of doing babysitting and that kind of childcare. So I hired her for my ozone business. And then when we went live for the pandemic, I said, do you want to be my ministerial assistant? She's like, yeah. So here we are. And she is the person behind the scenes that does all the work. All I do is speak and click a few buttons here and there that have to be done by me. We ask that you say hi, hello, good morning, however you like to greet us, because, in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. With this software, I don't even get names. I just get a number. And so it helps us when you say hi, hello, good morning. So I know what audience I have. And so Faith is the one that answers as me. And she's usually pretty spot on. I always go back and look and just make sure there aren't any questions or anything that I need to address. I think it's only happened twice in 4 years. So, I mean, she knows me pretty well. And then she became our soloist a couple of years ago. So she really does all of it. Thank you. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Don't pull back the curtain because you might see Faith. Right?
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you so much, darling. I love you. And then there is my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz. He was my first baby practitioner. He started with me in 1998, I think it was. Wasn't that? Yeah, the first class I taught, I think. He graduated, 2000?
2001.
2001, yeah. But he's been with me all this time and then moved away to Florida. He was my board president for many years, and then he moved off to Florida, and we lost the ability to have him here with us. So when we went live for the pandemic, I asked him if he'd be willing to serve, and he, of course, said yes. He always says yes. What a wonderful person. I couldn't do this without either one of these people. So anyway, he is our practitioner of the day, meaning he does our invocation and our benediction. And then at the end, he's available for our 1-minute miracle. And I'll talk more about that later. But thank you so much for being here, Oz. I love you. All right. Let's see. What else do I need to say? There's a watch party button so that you can invite all of your friends to watch with you, and you can talk amongst yourselves because it's a private chat. So click on that watch party button and invite all your friends. That way they get to see what kind of Sunday service they can expect. I think that's it. So close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song. Excuse me, I have a lot of drainage from being treated for a mold infection in my sinuses and respiratory system. And all of a sudden it's now draining. So I apologize for the nasality and all the coughing, but there we go. So close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God
God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
The presence of God is always here, right now. For God, as we conceive of it, is in all things, as all things, creating all things. Whatever there is, it's God. All of it is God, and all that can be is God. For God is the creator, the maintainer, and the recycler of all life. From the highest to the lowest, from the largest to the smallest, it's all God. And I know that God's presence through our service will reach out and touch each of you there. And that God's presence in all services, whenever acknowledged, is always there. There is no place that God is not, and that includes right here, right now, in me and you and everything we see and do. I give thanks for being part of this presence, and I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. Sometimes I can't see the cursor. This next song is one that Karen Drucker has provided us, which is, this was Fairy Lane Silver, We Are All One. And she wrote it when she was in practitioner training, and it's a great way to remember that we're all connected. So if you know the words, sing them loud and sing it proud, because you can't bother anybody.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I receive, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Yes, we are all one in it. Let me turn this fan on here. Got to remember how to use the fan. There we go. It's getting warm. So if you're here, say hi, hello, good morning. Greet us however you like. If you're here later, definitely say hi. Just let us know that you dropped by. It's good for us to know. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see people looking back at me, and I get that feedback. But here, I don't even get names. I just get a number. So we like it if you say hi, hello, good morning. And like I said, if you stop by later, please check in and just let us know you were here. If you like something that you hear, whether that's something I say or Oz prays or Faith sings, use that like button. And if you love it, send us love. We love to get hearts. And if something strikes you as really powerful, by all means, use that wow button. It gives me feedback, so I know when I'm on track, and it's really important to me when I get that feedback. So without further ado, I'm going to have Faith sing, and I don't remember the name of the song as usual.
Change the Way by Karen Drucker.
Change the Way, that's right. Here's Faith.
What do you want? Where do you want to go? You'll get what you want if you act as if you know. It starts with you. Do you believe it? It's all in the way that you choose to see it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do 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 do. When you feel lost and you can't find your way, keep your eye on the prize. It will materialize. You can't miss. Change your perception, lead you into a new direction. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do 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 do. Change, change. You can do it. Change, change. It's a sure thing. Change, change. Expect a miracle change. Watch it change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do do do.
Thank you, darling. That's one of my favorite songs. And you might be asking yourself what myths and fairy tales have to do with change. Well, it's all about changing from the inside out instead of expecting the world to change around you. And like she says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. In other words, your world begins to shift and change because you have changed within yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about myths and fairy tales today because, oh my gosh, I'm 68. I don't know how many of you are my age group, but I grew up with, fairy tales on TV and in books and everything else. And that really shaped the way I saw relationships. And I know every one of my era was shaped the same way, that we looked at relationships as the same as the fairy tales. For like Rapunzel, here's a perfect example. Here's this maiden in a tower with this long, long hair, and she can't get out of the tower by herself. So she lets her hair hang down. The prince crawls up her hair and somehow rescues her. I still can't figure out how they got out of the tower. I mean, I understand that he rescued her. I understand it's a fairy tale and it doesn't necessarily have to have logic, but I can't figure out how they got out of the tower. If they crawled back down on her hair, then what? Or she could have done that herself, whatever. But because we grew up thinking that there was going to be some prince that was going to rescue us, we tend to expect that from the men in our lives. Don't worry, I'm going to get to men. I will pick on men. I'm an equal opportunity picker-oner. But another one is Snow White, for example. She was in a coma, and she, in order to wake up, she needed the prince to come kiss her. And then she woke up and her life started. I don't know how many of you have just been sort of living, existing, so to speak, until you think you found your prince and he wakes you up, and then all of a sudden your life begins and you live happily ever after. It doesn't usually happen that way, but that's how we perceive it to happen because of the fairy tales we were raised with. And we have these myths that are behind all of that keep us from actually seeing what a relationship really should be. I love these Facebook reels that say what I thought marriage was going to be and what marriage actually is, because it's so true. Like, we have these concepts of what we think is going to happen, and it doesn't happen that way. Another one is Cinderella. Cinderella had this horrible life up until the point that, this prince found her because of a glass slipper. And then her life was wonderful and she lived happily ever after. I think living happily ever after is probably the number one ending for all of these fairy tales. And so the aim becomes living happily ever after. But first we have to find our prince, don't we? Otherwise we can't live happily ever after. And I guarantee you that relationships, especially marriage, do not end with happily ever after. There are all kinds of things that we have to adjust to when we get in a relationship, and especially in a marriage. For instance, I got married in 1982 to a musician. And I knew from when I was dating him that New Year's Eve was off limits, that he was going to be playing every New Year's Eve for the rest of our lives. I already knew that. So I focused my attention on Valentine's Day, my birthday, and Christmas were the only holidays that he couldn't be gone for, because he was gone usually either April or May to September or October. And I was okay with that. It was a great way for us to have separate lives and come together when we were together. And I'm a pretty self-sufficient girl. I thought I was more self-sufficient than I am. After Lynn passed, I am finding little ways in which I didn't even know things were going on that were going on in the background, but because Lynn always took care of them. But I've always been very self-sufficient. And Valentine's Day was a sacrosanct holiday for me for many years. And he wasn't allowed to be out of town for Valentine's Day. And then in 2009, he asked me, he says, I've got this opportunity for a gig that's a lot of money, and it's good for the band for exposure and blah, blah, blah. I'll be gone over Valentine's Day. And I had to stop and think about it, because I always bought my own flowers. I always bought my own chocolate covered strawberries. I always made dinner reservations myself. I always took care of all of that stuff myself anyway. And so why did I need to have him here for that? And so I said, okay, that's fine. And he went off and did it. And I didn't even hardly notice. I mean, Valentine's Day was my special day that I took care of myself. And that was a long time coming. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. When I got into this philosophy, I really did believe the fairy tales. I believed that, he would change for me into the potential that I saw in him. Because that's really, I don't even know how relationships ever actually work, because the woman is always focused on the potential of the guy. And yes, he has that potential, but we're not in the here and now about what he's actually about, right? And we're always seeking that potential, how that potential will enrich our lives and how it will make us happy. On the other hand, men have this myth about a princess. And so in the back of their mind, they want a princess. And that's a, total princess all the time, forever. Now, that's pretty unrealistic when you think about it. You cook and clean and take care of the kids and work a job and still manage to be the perfect princess. That's just not going to happen. But that's the myth that men live by. And so when you look at the men wanting you to be a princess and the women looking at the men thinking, they need to live up to their full potential so I can be happy, I don't really understand how relationships ever work. But I was really interested in spiritual psychology when I was in the school ministry, because I originally intended to be a psychologist. And once I got into the philosophy, I started thinking, I would rather do the spiritual aspect of it than the psychology aspect of it. But I focused a lot of my learning on spiritual psychology because it was like a marriage of the two. And I looked into all of these myths and fairy tales and began to see the correlation between why we seek out the partners we seek and what we expect of them, and how our expectations keep us from actually having that happy life. Because we have to change from within to be happy. It's a choice. Happiness is always, always a choice. And so here I am on Valentine's Day going, okay, this is fine. I can do this. And then I started looking at my birthday. And on my birthday, I have been having an ice cream roll cake since I was 5 years old, every year without fail. And I was always the one that would say, Lynn, you need to order that. Lynn, you need to go pick that up. I was always driving everything. I was making the reservations for dinner. I was, handling all of that. All I had to do basically was pick up the ice cream cake and show up. And so then one year he forgot about my birthday. Just totally forgot. There was no roll cake. There was no flowers. There was no candy. There was no presents. There was no dinner reservation. There was nothing, because I didn't prompt for it. And that was a turning point for me, where I fully embraced the idea that I was responsible for my own happiness. Because I'm sitting in this parking lot in a car with this poor man as I screamed at him. I literally had anger issues. And I was screaming at him at the top of my lungs. And it was that I purged all of the demons that I had inside, because after that, I didn't care anymore about birthdays, Christmas was another thing, but Valentine's Day, Christmas, none of it. Well, Christmas was, but my birthday. And I felt so bad for him that he had to endure all of that screaming, because I needed to purge my demons. He did not need to accept the demons that I was purging on him. But that was a long journey for me, because as a child, I was told, you're a kid, you have nothing to be angry about. When you get older, you can be angry. And so I shoved down all that anger. And one time, I had a spat of it, actually. I was standing in line in King Soopers and I passed out. And I woke up to all these people standing over me. And I had several of those occasions. And one time I was driving on Parker Road and I felt myself starting to pass out. So I pulled off into the gully and someone found me and they rushed me off to the doctor. And the doctor said, we're admitting you today because what you have is anger turned inside. And we need to get you to work on your anger issues. So I did this anger therapy while I was in there, this rage therapy, where I had pillows and I hit things with these pillows and I would scream at the top of my lungs, what I was angry about. And all the anger rose up within me and was, pushed out. And so I got the idea that gave me license to express my anger anytime I felt like it. And unfortunately, everyone around me got to experience the rage that came out of me because I didn't realize that my rage and my anger was my own problem. I wanted to make it everyone else's problem. And so all of a sudden I got into this philosophy and I was told, hey, listen, processing your anger on other people is not the way to go. The way to go is to say to yourself, I'm angry, and then look into the anger to see what's going on. Underneath all anger is a fear of some sort. Either you're afraid that you're not loved, you're afraid you're not worthy, you're afraid you're not valued, you're afraid you're going to be left alone, you're afraid of being abandoned, you're afraid of, it goes on and on and on. But every time you get angry, there's a fear that isn't being addressed. And it's so easy for us to bypass that fear and move right into anger and try to make it someone else's problem. And so when I got into this philosophy and understood that, I began to look at those things, those fears that were within me. And it's one of three things usually. It's either it is true what they're saying, or you're afraid it's true, or you think it might be true. Now, before I say anything else on this, I want to just do a little caveat here. Please don't ever, ever, ever look at somebody in the midst of their fury and say, I'm just being a mirror for you. Trust me, that is not a good thing to do. I had this poor girl say that to me one time, and all I wanted to do was punch her. I didn't hear what she said. I didn't recognize what she was saying. I couldn't even entertain the thought of what she was saying until much, much later, because my rage turned on her, right? And so I want to caution you not to do that. However, utilizing it for yourself is wonderful. It's wonderful therapy, honestly, because other people are mirrors for all of our unhealed stuff. And so if you get upset by something that somebody says or does, it's yours. It's not theirs. And we have a tendency to want to not accept that and take it out on them, because obviously it's their fault that I'm upset, right? And so when you take it within and you ask yourself, what am I really angry about? What is the fear that I have? Is it that it's true what they're saying? Or is it that I'm afraid it might be true? Or is it possibly true? When you look at that, then you're better able to understand your own workings, and you're no longer angry at them. You see, it disperses the anger. And so that was a process for me, because I was not easy to live with. I think I'm better now. I don't know. I haven't lived well. I lived with Vincent, but that's a whole other thing. I don't think I ever processed rage. Well, I did a couple of times, I guess, on Vincent, but mostly it's the people you love that you process all that anger on. But we have to learn to change ourselves, not the other person. You can't change another person. Here's a perfect example. At our 10-year anniversary, Lynn came home one day and said, I've seen a lawyer. I'm moving out. I want a divorce. And, what am I going to say? No, please don't go. I'm too independent for that. So I went, okay. So I started making plans to go to Glenwood and give him the time to move out. And I mentioned it to my sister, who said, oh, no, you can't do that right now. You just can't. Mom has put so much time and money and energy into this surprise anniversary, 10-year anniversary party for you guys. You cannot do this right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she goes, and by the way, it's a surprise, so act surprised. I'm like, okay. So we went to the 10-year anniversary party, and everybody else was happy. The people who attended were happy. My mom was happy. Even Joey was happy. We were not happy, but that's okay. We made it through all of that. And then I left right away to Glenwood. And I stayed in Glenwood for 3 weeks. And I didn't speak to a soul except for ordering food the entire 3 weeks that I was there. My focus was all on meditation, prayer, and journaling. And all I did was look at, why am I the way I am? Why am I so difficult to live with? Why do I have so much anger? I never really did figure out some of the sources of my anger, but I really got that I was told when I was younger that I couldn't be angry. And so now that I'm older and I was given permission to be angry, now I'm by God going to be angry. But I never really got to the source of all of the anger. Instead, I went right for all the fears that were operating. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being worthy of having a good relationship, the fear of not being a good person. I really thought I wasn't a good person. And I went through all of that. And 3 weeks later, I go home and I expected Lynn to have been moved out because we didn't communicate at all. There weren't cell phones back then. And so I go home and he's like, I think this is something worth working on. And so I'm not moving out, and let's, do what we can to save this marriage. And so I'm not saying that what I did working on myself changed him. I think what it did was it opened the pathway for him to think differently. But he, of course, was at choice about it. He could have moved out and it would have been the same result, really, because I chose happiness. So many times when we get into fights with people, we choose being right over being happy. And my mantra was always, do I want to be happy or do I want to be right? Do I want to be happy or do I want to be right? And every time that I chose happiness, I began to feel more powerful and more successful in life. And so there wasn't really a happily ever after that we all seek for. That's my point, is that we had to work through some intense stuff in order for us to stay together 43 years, which we did. But it wasn't about happily ever after. It was about me being happy where I am and with whom I'm, with whoever I'm with. And so I really focused my attention on changing me and not worrying so much about him. Now, Christmas is a different story, because our family used to get together all the time. And then the pandemic hit, and then Lynn had a lung transplant. And so we were not able to be with family anymore. So Christmas had to kind of go by the wayside. And now with my sister gone and Lynn gone, there really isn't much Christmas left for me to demand that it be perfect. Again, I'm happy within myself. And that's what really is the driving force behind everything that I do in my life, is to make sure that I'm happy because I've given myself what I need in order to be happy, right? So if we believe in the fairy tales, someone else is always responsible for our happiness as well as responsible for our pain. If we step away from the fairy tales and the myths and we say to ourselves, okay, what do I need to be happy? It's not like the 60s and 70s where we were taught that love meant that I can make you love me. I'm gonna make you love me. That kind of stuff. We were raised on that. You can't make someone else love you. You can't make someone else be the version of a partner that you want. All you can do is give yourself what you are expecting that other person to give you. When you are responsible for your own happiness and you accept that responsibility, you're happy no matter who's in your life or isn't in your life. And that's the goal here, really. I've had to learn now how to live life without Lynn. If I didn't have the ability to be happy within myself, I don't think I would have survived all of this. And so, because I lost my sister a year ago, I've lost 6 people in the last year. 5 of them really significant relationships, and I wouldn't be able to function had I not had the capacity to look within myself for that which makes me happy. I'm still working on what brings me joy, because all of the things that used to bring me joy were things that we did together. So now it's like, oh, what does bring me joy? I've already mastered the I can eat whatever I want thing, because Lynn and I had very different ideas about what good food was. But I'm comfort eating, and so that's going to have to go by the wayside. But I do prefer things like salads and that kind of stuff. And so If I eat the way my body is asking me to eat, then there's that happiness right there because I'm listening to my body. So many times we don't listen to what the inside of us needs. We are so focused on how that other person or that other situation or that other job or that other, finances or that other whatever it is going to be the thing that will bring us happiness. And the truth is, none of that can bring you happiness until you have that happiness within you. So what I'm basically asking of you this week is to look at where you have bought into the myths and the fairy tales, to what your expectations are for not only your relationships, but your life as well. I know for myself that I had bought into the fairy tale of not only will we live happily ever after, but someone else will be taking care of me. Now, that's a real dichotomy for me because, like I said, I'm a pretty independent little cuss. And so the idea of being totally dependent on someone financially and for everything is not something I could even stomach. However, in the back of my head, in my subjective mind, I still carried that fairy tale of the prince is going to rescue me. He's going to be wealthy, so I'm going to be provided for emotionally, financially, physically, all of that, right? And so this week, what I really want you to focus on is where you've bought into those myths or fairy tales, where you have bypassed what your own needs are, where you have bypassed your fears to reach anger and are taking it out on someone else. Because truly, you notice that when you, okay, so here's, Carlos Castaneda wrote a bunch of books, I think it was in the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken, about Don Juan, who kind of is a fictional character. I'm sure some of it was true. I'm not sure how much of it was true or how much of it was fantasy, but it made for great reading. But it also carried a very spiritual lesson in it. So Don Juan wanted to do peyote. So he went to Mexico thinking that, he could just walk over there and they just hand him peyote and he could experience it. Wrong. He met up with this guy, Carlos Castaneda, who, or I guess Carlos was the author. He met up with this guy who said, I will take you by the hand and I will teach you, and then we'll talk about peyote later. And so he wound up in this relationship with a shaman who taught him about holes in our soul. That every time you get in an argument with someone, you create a hole in your soul and you leave a piece of yourself with them. And his whole thing was you either meet people in your life who are going to heal those holes, or you run into people who are going to reach in because they can feel or see or intuit that you have those holes and drain all of your energy away from you. And so the object of the entire lesson for Don Juan was to learn how to seal up those holes and how to call the pieces of himself back so that no one could take advantage of him. So, when you have a fight with somebody and you walk away and you have that ickiness that you feel inside, what happened was you've created a hole, you left a piece of yourself with that other person. When we learn to look to our own self and look to see where our anger is coming from, when we focus our attention on that, we heal those holes so no one else can reach in and drain our energy. But the other thing is that we take all the puzzle pieces of all the pieces we've left behind and we put them all together and we become a more whole person. So our happiness is derived from us being whole and complete, right? And that's really what we focus on in this philosophy more than anything else, is that we are healed, whole, and healthy. And that has everything to do with our ability to take responsibility for our own happiness and even for our unhappiness. When I recognize when someone is disappointing me or doing something that makes me really, really angry, when I realize that it's mine, that I can do something with that, then I have all the power, right? Because so much of the time when someone else does something to us, we feel powerless. And taking back our power has everything to do with our own happiness, right? It's not power over other people, it's taking back our own personal power. And so as we talk about myths and fairy tales, I want us to remember that. So this week, ask yourself, where did I buy into the fairy tale and the myth, and how has it affected my relationship? And what is the fear behind my anger that keeps me from being able to have that healthy relationship with someone else? That's the homework, if you are willing to accept it. Your mission, as they say, should you decide to accept it, is to do all of that work internally and allow yourself to feel happy no matter what anyone else is doing or saying. They're just doing what they do. It's not as personal as we take it. We only take it personally because we have the unhealed stuff within us. And our job is not to heal others. Our job is to heal ourselves and create a pathway through which others can heal. Hi, Fred, Kathy, Marlene, Joey, and Lynn. So as we're living our lives now, and we're doing all of that from Dynabooks, turn off. I don't need those notifications. As we're doing this work, I guarantee you, your life will be much more happy and full of joy when you realize that you are responsible for your own healing, your own happiness, your own joy, and of course, your own anger and fears. Let's have a prayer. In this moment, I turn my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God, to that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful God is. In this moment of clarity about the power of God, I recognize that that is where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very being. It is who and what I am, and every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that is God flowing through me. I know that same truth to be so for this team that God has provided me, for Faith and for Oz and for Karen and Elaine and Tina. Because I know that same essence of God that flows through me is the same essence that flows through each of them as well. And that wisdom of the ages, that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through all of us, is what guides us and leads us to the perfect solution to every issue. I know that same truth to be so for every name that is every person that is here right now. Because we are guided and led by that same ancient wisdom of the ages, because it flows through everyone equally. Mitaki Yasin, all my brethren, we are connected. We are all one. And so I bless this coming week with so many opportunities to experience our happiness, our joy, our peace, our harmony, our love. So many opportunities to let go of all of the stuff that we're afraid of that might be true. And we allow ourselves to sit in our fears and expel them. Let them dissolve the anger. Let them dissolve any of the bad feelings. Let them dissolve anything that we feel like we have to fight against. And sit in that centerpiece of happiness and joy and love and life. I bless this week with that experience for all who are here, whether that be in real time or later on. I know that every name that is in the ministry or prayer, whatever experience they are having, God is the answer. And so I pull back the veil and reveal that truth here and now. I claim it in their name as good and very good. And so my heart fills with a gratitude to know that this is so, to be in service of this in this way. And so I just let it be. And so it is. Amen. Oh, sorry, my nose is itching really bad.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Faith. This is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share gratitude for that which you have received in the physical realm, or perhaps what you have already created in the mind of God, but may not necessarily have seen in the physical realm yet. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to go with me to www.oasiscsl.org, and about 2/3 down the page is an offering affirmation. And then underneath that is a Contribute Now button. So I just want to briefly talk about contributions real quick. If we were in a facility, there would be rent and utilities and all kinds of other expenses that we would need people to contribute for. Since we are only online, excuse me, we have marketing expenses because we're trying to market to the world, because our vision is a healed world, and I mean globally. We already have people from Germany, the UK, the Netherlands or Holland, the Philippines, and India watching us. And we'd really like to reach the rest of the world as well. And so our vision is a healed world. And our mission is to heal the world one person at a time. And how we do that is we market to the world and let them know that they can come here and work on their healing. So go with me now, whether you're watching in real time or later on, go with me now to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. Hit that Contribute Now button and help us reach our vision through our mission. All right. Let's see. The first thing I want to talk about is our licensed practitioners. They are the healing arm of the church. We call them our God Squad because I love that imagery of them like walking in and taking charge and handling stuff, right? And so they serve our church in 3 different ways. The first is that they pray every day for a week on any prayer requests that we have. So if you would like prayer for something, put it in the comments section, and we will make sure the God Squad gets it, and they will pray every day for a week on those. If you don't want it to be public, you can DM Faith, and she'll make sure the God Squad gets the prayer request. The second way our practitioners serve our church is by providing spiritual guidance by appointment for a fee. So you would reach out to one of our practitioners, probably message them on Facebook, and let them know that you would like a session, and they will let you know how to pay. I don't get involved in any of that. Every practitioner has their own business. So whether they use Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, is up to them. But they will let you know how to pay for it, and then they will reach out to you by video chat at the appointed time. And then the third way that our practitioners serve, and that's pretty much ours every week, is by being our practitioner of the day. And that means he does the invocation and benediction and is available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. That is not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share whatever you're experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. So if he doesn't answer right away, it probably means he's on with somebody else, and try back a little bit later. All right. Brooks and Bailey. This is one of those places where I actually have to push the buttons. Brooks and Bailey has jewelry that they make. They have a lot of necklaces and bracelets. One of the products that they always carry is these mala beads. And I like the mala beads because the Hindus and Buddhists use them to do their chants. They take one bead at a time, and that they count their chants that way. I say do affirmations 100 times a day. Well, there's 108 beads on this necklace. So on the mala bead necklace, and the bracelets have 54. So you would use the bracelet twice if you're doing that. This particular one is amethyst, so it's $60, but they have other gemstones anywhere from $30 and up. And as far as the bracelets go, I can never remember how much they are, but they're somewhere between $20 and $25. So definitely check out these ladies. Again, that's Brooks and Bailey. Oh, I can't get it. Okay, that's fine. It will hang there. All of the proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue, which is a very worthy cause. And they have a Facebook page, but you can reach them through brooksandbailey0307@gmail.com as well. I usually try to repost anytime they have a table or a booth at any of the events when they make it shareable. And then we have an Etsy store by Angel Renee. She has intention candles and tea bags that you put in your bath water. And she uses all these aromatic herbs that help you to focus. And so we use them for focusing our attention, or that's the intention of doing it. All right. And then we have Reverend Fairy Lane Silver's music. Again, we couldn't do service like this without these two ladies. So I always like to support those who support us. Fairy Lane Silver, Reverend Fairy Lane Silver, can't change her website to reflect how to pay for it. So you have to reach out to her through email and let her know. She travels around the country and doing singing, and she always carries her CDs in the trunk of her car. So go to the website, email her. She will tell you how to pay for it, and then she's very good about sending out those CDs right away. I've never had even a day lapse. If I get a hold of her, in a reasonable hour. Of course, if I do it at midnight, she's not going to get it done that night. But she does send them out right away. The other one is Karen Drucker, who's been a music director for several of our churches and has been providing music to our churches for a long time. I'm not going to say how long. Anyway, she has gifted us with her entire collection of 20 CDs worth of music. And so she makes it possible for us to have a Sunday service that includes music. I like having the full experience of a Sunday service versus me just being a talking head for an hour. So these two ladies make it possible. Karen Drucker's website does work. You can buy it by the song, by the CD, by the karaoke file. She has songbooks, and some of the songbooks even have American Sign Language in them. So definitely check out her website and buy something. We have Father's Day coming up. That's a great gift to give for Father's Day. Oh yeah, that's the next one we need to get Tina set up for. Anyway. That's a great gift to give somebody. And then, of course, check out our website at www.oasiscsl.org. There you're going to find activities that we've had at the church, picnics and that kind of thing, so you can get to know who your spiritual family is. Also, there's video sermons on there for the first 3 years and audio sermons. I know it's out of date. Between my sister passing a year ago and my husband passing just recently, it just has not been updated in a while. So in the meantime, you can go to YouTube for the video sermons and SoundCloud for the audio sermons that are all the years prior, under S. Tucker. So check it out. But come back and look at our website. Just kind of keep in touch, because we will be updating it. I promise you. All right. I'm going to turn this over to Oz now. Are you there? Ah, there he is. He stepped away just for a moment.
And I know right here, right now, that God's presence moves through all things in our lives, in us, as us, and all around us. And I invite God's presence to flow through all of our lives unimpeded through the course of the following week. I give thanks for the blessings that result, and I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. Oh my goodness. I'm so blessed that you were here with us, because I know there's 1,000 things that you could be doing on a Sunday morning, and we're really happy that you decided to be with us. So thank you so much. Next week and every week, tune in at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. I don't remember what's on the schedule for next week. I know Father's Day is coming up. Do we know what the date is?
2 weeks, I think the 16th.
2 weeks. Okay, cool. And so definitely tune in next week and every week. We like to provide very inspirational content. We strive for that. And so I hope that we have uplifted and inspired you today, as I hope that we always do. So in the meantime, until next week, stay safe. We love you. Bye.